Garage door revenge. They messed with me all night. The deadline loomed. Lines of code swam before my eyes, mocking my sleep deprivation. This weekend was supposed to be my sanctuary, a haven to wrestle this project into submission before my boss started breathing down my neck again. I craved quiet, the kind you could almost taste. Then the Millers moved in. Brad and Stacy. She was all manicured nails and blindingly white teeth, constantly glued to her phone, narrating every mundane detail of her life too well. Whoever followed her. He was a gearhead spending hours tinkering with his muscle car in the garage, the roar of the engine shattering the suburban peace. The first sign was Friday night. A small gathering, Stacy called it on her live stream. A dozen or so people crammed onto their tiny patio, laughing too loudly, their voices carrying across the narrow space between our houses. I winced, adjusted my noise-canceling headphones, and tried to focus on the debugging staring back at me. It was annoying but manageable. I told myself it was a one-time thing, a housewarming. Saturday night shattered that illusion. The music started around 7, bass thumping through the walls of my house. This wasn't a gathering, it was a full-blown party. Cars lined the street, their headlights cutting through my living room window. The noise swelled, a cacophony of drunken shouts, screeching laughter, and that incessant pounding bass. I tried to work. I really did. But the vibrations were making my monitor shake. Finally, around midnight, I snapped. I marched next door, took a deep breath, and rang the doorbell. Stacy answered, her eyes glazed over, a forced smile plastered on her face. "Hey, what's up?" she slurred. "The noise," I said, trying to keep my voice level. "It's really loud. I have to work and I can't concentrate." She blinked at me, seemingly confused. "Oh, yeah, sorry. We're just having a little fun. Could you maybe turn it down a little?" She shrugged. "I'll see what I can do." She didn't. The party raged on until 4 in the morning. I didn't sleep a wink. Every boom of the bass was a hammer blow to my skull. Every drunken shout was a fresh wave of frustration. By sunrise, I was a twitching, exhausted mess. Sunday was a write-off. I tried to catch up on sleep, but the echoes of the party lingered. The Millers were still up, cleaning up, playing music at a slightly lower volume but still irritatingly present. I started to seethe. I pictured my boss's face if I failed to deliver the project on time. I pictured the Millers, oblivious, reveling in their weekend of revelry. Monday morning, I was a zombie. My code was a jumbled mess. My boss, usually a calm and understanding guy, pulled me aside. "Mark, you look terrible. And the progress report, it's not good. Is everything all right?" That was it. The final straw. My fuse, already frayed to nothing, finally blew. "Everything's fine," I mumbled, but the lie tasted like ash in my mouth. It wasn't fine. It was far from fine. The Millers had stolen my weekend, sabotaged my work, and driven me to the brink of madness. They would pay. That evening, fueled by caffeine and righteous anger, I started researching garage door openers. They all operated on specific frequencies, I learned. And with a little searching, I found a cheap remote jammer online. It arrived 2 days later, a small, innocuous-looking device that held the promise of sweet, sweet revenge. My first prank was simple. I waited until Brad was backing his precious muscle car out of the garage, then hit the jammer. The door shuddered, stopped halfway, then started to descend again, narrowly missing the roof of his car. He slammed on the brakes, swore loudly, and glared in my direction. I just smiled innocently and waved. Next, I started scheduling deliveries. Pizzas at 2 a.m., random packages from Amazon, a set of novelty garden gnomes, a book on advanced basket weaving. The doorbell would ring, the dogs would bark, and I would watch from my window as the Millers stumbled to the door, their faces growing increasingly bewildered and annoyed. They suspected something, of course. One afternoon, Stacy stormed over, her face contorted with fury. "Are you doing this?" she demanded, pointing a perfectly manicured finger at me. "Are you messing with our deliveries?" "Doing what?" I asked, feigning ignorance. "Don't play dumb, the pizzas, the packages, it's you, isn't it?" "I have no idea what you're talking about," I said, my voice as bland as possible. "You're a creep," she shrieked. "Just leave us alone, maybe you should be more considerate of your neighbors," I retorted, finally letting some of my anger show. She sputtered, then stormed back to her house, muttering threats under her breath. Old man Hemmings, my neighbor across the street, had been watching the whole exchange from his porch. He usually sided with the Millers, always commenting on how nice and friendly they were, but this time he just shook his head and went back inside. The next step was escalation. The jammer was fun, but I wanted something more persistent, something that would really drive them crazy. I modified the jammer, adding a cheap timer that I bought from an electronics store. Now, the garage door would open and close automatically at random intervals throughout the night. It was glorious. I would lie in bed, listening to the whirring of the motor, watching from my window as Brad and Stacy scrambled to deal with it. They tried everything, unplugging the opener, disabling the sensors, even installing a new keypad, but nothing worked. The garage door had a mind of its own. Then disaster struck, or maybe, in a twisted way, it was a triumph. One night, the garage door malfunctioned completely. It started opening and closing rapidly, the motor straining, the metal panels rattling and banging. It sounded like a robot apocalypse unfolding in their garage. Brad, beside himself with rage, charged across the lawn and pounded on my door. I opened it, feigning surprise. "What the hell is going on with your garage door?" he roared, his face red and contorted. "My garage door," I asked innocently. "What's wrong with it?" "Don't play stupid, it's going crazy, it's been doing it all night, I swear, if you're messing with me." "I wouldn't dream of it," I said, my voice dripping with sarcasm. That's when old man Hemmings intervened. He walked over, his face grim. "Brad," he said, his voice surprisingly firm, "leave him alone." Brad turned to him, confused. "What? But I've been watching you," Hemmings said. "The parties, the noise, the deliveries, you haven't been very good neighbors." Brad sputtered, trying to defend himself, but Hemmings cut him off. "Just go back to your house and fix your garage door, and try to be a little more considerate." Brad, defeated, slunk back to his house. The next day, a police officer showed up at my door. Apparently, one of the delivery drivers I'd scheduled had complained about being harassed. The officer asked me about the garage door incident and the numerous deliveries. I denied any involvement, of course. He warned me about potential consequences, about disturbing the peace and harassment charges. "Just try to keep the noise down," he said wearily, "and maybe try to be a little more neighborly." I nodded solemnly. The Millers were forced to call a garage door repairman. I watched from my window as the repairman tinkered with the mechanism, shaking his head and muttering about faulty wiring and unexplained interference. As he packed up his tools, he remarked loudly, so that I'm sure Brad and Stacy could hear, that he had never seen anything like it, and that it looked like somebody had been tampering with the system. The Millers were humiliated. The whole neighborhood knew what had happened. They suspected me, but they couldn't prove anything. The change in their behavior was almost immediate. The music was turned down. The parties stopped. Stacy's social media posts suddenly featured hashtags like community and respect. Old man Hemmings came over a few days later, a box of cookies in his hand. "I wanted to apologize," he said gruffly. "I misjudged you. Those Millers, they are not as nice as they seem." I accepted the cookies, a small smile playing on my lips. The neighborhood settled into an uneasy peace. The Millers were chastened, but I doubted they would ever truly change. But for now, it was quiet. I was able to catch up on my work, barely meeting my deadline. I sat in my backyard, the sun warm on my face, the silence broken only by the chirping of birds. I glanced at my garage door remote, then put it away. The garage door was silent, and for now, that was enough. I had a sense of vindication and a hint of lingering mischief. It was good to be the king of petty revenge.